Hey everyone, Mr. Macintosh here. In this video, I'm going to cover the OpenCore Legacy Patcher 0.5.1 update. After months of anticipation, it now supports macOS Ventura, so I know you got a lot of questions. Plus, we're going to go over all the changes and updates in the application, plus give you a live walkthrough on how to update the app, check the version of the OpenCore bootloader, and install the latest bootloader, and the post-install root patches. Plus, I'm going to answer your questions of, hey, is it safe to install with macOS Big Sur 11.7.1 or macOS Monterey 12.6.1. So we got a lot to cover. Let's jump in and get started. Right off the bat, the point of these videos is there's a lot of questions when it comes to updates, whether it's software updates, Big Sur updates, Monterey updates, Ventura updates, and all that, and updating the app, the bootloader, the OpenCore version, and all that stuff. The idea behind these videos is to try to show you the inner workings and how to work with these different versions and these updates after the initial install. The initial install is only one step. Then comes making sure that we're up to date with the latest version of OpenCore, the post-install root patches, and the latest macOS updates, because you don't want to just stay in one version. You want to make sure all the improvements to the operating system and the latest security updates are installed. So that's the point of these videos. So now the first thing we want to cover is the latest update, and I want to go over some of the changes in this update and how they're important to you. Then we'll go over a live demo, and then I'll show you on macOS Monterey and macOS Big Sur, and then we can get into more information after that. So let's talk about 0.5.1. First of all, 0.5 is a major release. We've been on 4 all last year, and we jumped to 5 because it now supports macOS Ventura. Now you'll notice we're not on 0.5.0. That was released on Tuesday, one day after the launch of Ventura, after a weekend beta testing on the Discord server, which went very well. There was a couple issues that were picked up and fixed right before launch on Tuesday. But after the launch on Tuesday, a lot more people installed, and there was a couple more things that were fixed in the 0.5.1 update that weren't included in the 5.0 update. So first of all these models are supported for macOS Ventura, and you'll notice that they start in 2012 first. That's most Mac models with a metal GPU graphics card that are supported. Now you'll notice that, hey, wait a minute, what about my 2011, 2010? Those are considered non-metal, and they're not supported in macOS Ventura and OpenCore Legacy Patcher yet, but they're still in active development. I'll keep you updated with the latest information on those in the future. But one of the biggest additions was the 2013 Mac Pro, and that wasn't in the initial release. There was a issue with that, and Macola was able to fix that and added that to the 0.5.1 update, so it was really exciting. So now let's talk about some of the change logs and the fixes in the 0.5.1 update. So when we look at the 0.5.1 changelog, one of the interesting things that was found when it was released to the wider audience on Tuesday is there was one specific SSD in the MacBook Air that had a problem in recovery, and Macola was able to figure that out and get that fixed in this update, and you couldn't even erase the drive. It was a really strange error, and that was resolved. One of the interesting things that is required for some AMD GPUs for Ventura on Macs is that the kernel development kit is required to be able to get graphics acceleration working. And if you look here, what happens is that Apple will release a kernel development kit for each version of the operating system. For example, 13.0 will get one, 13.1 will get one, 13.2. What they did here was they said that just because there's one version difference between like 13.0 and 13.1, that's no big deal. It'll still allow that, and there'll no longer be an error. And again, you're not going to see this because it's only down to those AMD. It's like, for example, 2016 MacBook Pro. And you'll see that when you're another window that says, hey, downloading the kernel development kit, only certain people will see that. The next thing is that the library extension is cleared out folder because there was some incompatible text in there that was taken care of. And there was also, this was an interesting one, a add OpenCore picker timeout section. So let's take a look at that. And what's interesting about that is that it was a user suggested feature. So if we go into the settings here, and then we go into the developer settings, there's our new picker timeout. And what he was saying is like, hey, listen, when I was booting on my Mac, the boot picker goes way too fast, especially for if I have like a Mac Pro or a Mac Mini. Before the screen even comes on, the boot picker is gone. So you can now go in here and change it to different, you can put up to 15 seconds where it'll hold there, and you can change that. What a great setting. And that shows that the developers are listening to your feedback. And if I see something in there, I also pass those along too if you post them in the comments. comments. So it's really great to see that, a really cool change here. The next one is add that Mac Pro support. It's really great to see the 2013 Mac Pro get a little love, even though there's probably not that many out there because they're still pretty expensive today. But it's really great to see that we've got full support now for all metal compatible Macs. Now, before we get into the demo showing you how to update and install the latest version of OpenCore Legacy Patcher and then Big Sur and Monterey updates, I wanted to talk about what you're going to start to see in the software update pane if you're on Monterey or macOS Big Sur. And you're going to start to see macOS Ventura in here. And you're so used to installing the over-the-air updates, the native updates in here, for both operating systems, you might think, hey, I can just click upgrade now and get to macOS Ventura. Well, the problem is that it's not supported by the OpenCore Legacy Patcher developers. You need to go into the OpenCore Legacy Patcher application and create a USB installer of Ventura Boot to it, and then upgrade that way, and then you'll maintain all your data and you're doing it the proper way and the most reliable way. So again, if you did it that way, don't worry about it, and if it works for you, that's fine, but just keep in mind that is the supported way by the developers. Now, normally you're seeing these software updates in here, and let's take a look at what that looks like, what you'll normally see in here. Here's a screenshot, and Apple kind of hides those updates. So if you want to continue to update macOS Big Sur and macOS Monterey and stay on that operating system, that's fine. You don't have to make the jump to macOS and Ventura yet. So click on more information, and then you'll see the macOS Big Sur 11.7.1 and the Monterey 12.6.1 update in there, and you can just install those, and you do not have to install the macOS Ventura update until you're ready to go. So hopefully that clears up some of that stuff on when you see the macOS Ventura in your software update pane. Now, first off, I always get the questions on, should I update to the latest version of the operating system, and should I update to the latest version of OpenCore Legacy Patcher? And that's a great question. There's no immediate rush to update to the latest version for at least a couple of days to see how the updates do. And no matter what, even Apple has issues with their supported Macs and sometimes software update. It's rare, but it happens. So when a new update comes out like 12.6.1 or 11.7.1, the first thing you want to do is go to the OpenCore Legacy Patcher GitHub page first and then check to see if there's any issues. So you go to the main page, then you go to the GitHub and look at the main top area here to see if there's anything under the latest releases. So click on the latest releases over here, and usually if there's an issue, it'll be right up here. So let's go down in some of the releases here, and I can show you what that would look like if there is an issue. And there was an issue with 12.6, and I want to show you what that looks like. So here you go. There was, with the Apple's release of macOS Monterey 12.6, and there was some problems with Safari 16.0 and how it rendered Google search terms in the pane. So if you installed that, this is what would happen if you had installed it one of those first days. And again, we're not saying you can't install those updates on the very first day, but sometimes it takes the developers a couple days to be able to recognize that, find the bug, and fix the bug, and they did on 0.4.11. So come here first, and as long as you don't see any warning messages after a couple of days, usually you're okay. So what's the next step? So you don't see any messages here after a couple of days, and you don't hear any issues or any of the Monterey updates. Now it's probably okay to install the software update, because remember, you want to have the latest fixes in your operating system, and you want to have the latest security updates to keep your Mac secure. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go into the OpenCore Legacy Patcher application here, and you'll be greeted right off the bat if there's an update. So you don't even have to check the GitHub right off the bat. You'll see that before you even start to patch or update, there's a new version available. So for this Mac, 0.4.10 is installed on there, and the latest new version is 0.5.1. Notice how there's no installer here that is going to say, hey, update now. The reason is because we wanted to do just like I said before, and check this section right here for any important notes to prevent you from having a problem in the future. So again, as long as you don't see any problems here, you go down here, and then all you need to do is find the assets section and download OpenCore Patcher GUI app.zip. Don't worry about any of these other pieces, only download the application.zip. So click on that once, and it'll go right to your downloads folder here, and it'll take a couple of minutes because it's got all of the drivers and packages at 500 megabytes. Okay, just about done downloading here, and you should see the folder jump up and down when it's finished, and there it is. So let's minimize our window here. And the first thing we want to do, though, is we want to make sure we close out of the previous version of OpenCore Legacy Patcher 4.10. So we'll go up here and we'll click Exit, and we want to open up our Applications folder here. And we'll see our old OpenCore Legacy Patcher application in here. So we're going to go down to the downloads folder, and then we're going to drag the latest version over to our applications folder. And it's going to say, hey, wait a minute, we've detected there's one in there with the same name. We want to replace it with the latest version. And there it is. Now all we need to do is open it up. We'll close our applications folder here. It's going to verify and ask us if it's okay to download or open up the application. We're going to click on open. And there we go. We're on the latest version of the app. Now remember, that's only step one. There's 2 more steps in this process because the OpenCore bootloader that's on your hard drive, this is that. And then the 3rd step is the post-install root patches. Now, if you wanted to update everything on OpenCore Legacy Patcher but not install a software update, that's fine too. Because you could install the latest version of OpenCore now, so you're fully up to date, and you can install the latest version of the patches if you see one of the patches in the patch notes that affects your Mac. So the first thing I want to show you, and I haven't really talked about this that much before in the past because it's not required every time, but it's the version of OpenCore on your hard drive. So how do we even know what version of OpenCore is on your hard drive? But let's go back to those patch notes here, and let's go to the Releases tab here. And let's go to 0.5.0. Now, if you look down here, right at the bottom here, we'll open up the changelogs, and we can actually see the version of OpenCore Release that is on there. So on 0.5.0, it was updated, the OpenCore bootloader was updated to 0.8.5. So, well, wait a minute, what version is on your Mac? Well, let's take a look. Let's minimize this window here. And let's open up a terminal session. And I'm going to put this command in the chat so you can see this. But basically, you're checking NVRAM for the version of OpenCore. So we'll paste that command in here. And it's NVRAM checking for the OpenCore version. Just hit enter. And there we go. Release 080, which was released on April 18th, 2022. And that is a little bit old, right? So if we look at 080 and then we go back to here, we've missed 5 different OpenCore releases. Now, again, that's not the end of the world, but that might be an idea for you, like, hey, I think I want to get my latest version of OpenCore updated. So let's do that now. Let's go back to the app, and let's get our OpenCore version installed and updated to the latest 85 version, and the date will change when that's done too. So before you click open and build and install OpenCore, you want to take a look at these settings. Now remember, these settings in here are not what is installed on your Mac. Every time this settings opens here, it is going to be set for like, hey, we're going to do a default install. Here's what we're going to set as those boot settings. So if you don't want the boot picker, just unclick that and you don't have to really change anything. The OpenCore Legacy Patcher app is smart enough to look at your hardware and set the right settings for you. Now all we need to do is return to the main menu, build and install OpenCore. It'll build all those files to our temporary location here, and then all we need to do is install those files to our EFI or our bootloader disk. There it is. There's our EFI disk. Let's click on it, and then we'll click on the EFI and then type in our password here. It loaded the EFI partition right here, and it unmounted it, and it's saying, hey, would you like to reboot? Yes, let's reboot and restart. Okay, we're back up after a reboot and installing our new bootloader version, and let's check to make sure that we got up. So we're going to put that command back up here, and there we are. Look at that. 10/4/2022, and we're at release 085. So now we are at the latest version of the OpenCore bootloader. Now that we got that all figured out, let's talk about the root install patches. Okay, now let's talk about the post-install root patches, because we've already gone over how to install and update the application to 0.5.1. We've already gone over how to install and check the version of OpenCore that's on your system, the bootloader. And now let's talk about the third and final, the post-install root patches. Now this all depends on which version of OpenCore Legacy Patcher you're using, or the version of macOS you're using, and the type of Mac that you're on. This particular Mac is a 2013 15-inch MacBook Pro, so it has a metal graphics card in it, and it's running Big Sur, so it doesn't even require any post-root install patches. But how do you know for sure? Click on the button. Look at that. no patches needed. And that's why Big Sur still has a place today, because it's still getting security updates. And it's also good because if you're running any kind of metal heavy apps like Maps, for example, it runs really well and doesn't have the same issues that some of the Monterey and Ventura apps do, because they rely on patches to be able to make the graphics acceleration work. That's what Big Sur looks like. Now let's go over to a Monterey system here that requires the root patches, and that is a 2012 version, because Apple ripped out all the drivers from macOS Monterey, so that's why we can't do the same thing we do with Big Sur and have a system where, oh, you don't even need to install the patch. So to check, we're on the latest version of OpenCore Legacy Patcher 0.5.1. You're like, well, wait a minute, I gotta check to make sure I'm on the latest version of the post-install root patches. Just click on the button. Look at this. All available patches for your system have been already applied and installed, and it even tells you the version that it was done with and the date. So when you see this, you don't have to do anything. Return back to the main menu, your system's running great. No problem. But let's take a look at a system that has an older version of OpenCore Legacy Patcher and they need to be updated to the latest version. So this here is a 2011 15-inch MacBook Pro, and let's take a look at that. So we want to open up OpenCore Legacy Patcher here. And then we want to take a look. First of all, hey, oh shoot, we are on 4.11 and we need to update, but we're not going to do that now because I want to show you what it looks like. Let's click on post-install root patch, and it's going to let us install it again, even though we already installed that. So that's what was confusing to the users a little bit. Well, wait a minute, these patches are available, so I got to install them again? But this was trying to tell you that they were already installed. So that was kind of a point where, like, okay, we need to redesign this a little bit so it's a little bit easier for the user to understand. So after you get 0.5.0 installed, from now on, I want to show you what it's going to look like. So we're going to return the main menu here, and we're going to close 0.4.11, and we're going to open up 0.5.1, and we'll show you what that looks like. We'll click on that button again, and it's going to look the same. But this time around, it's actually going to, this section will update once we have the latest version of 0.5.1 installed. So let's do that now. We know that we have the 0.4.11 root patches on there, but we want to get this system updated to the latest 0.5.1 root patches. So let's start that root patching process here. And let's click on yes to relaunch as root. And we'll type in our password. And there we go, the patching is started. All right, we finished. Let's click on reboot and restart. Okay, we're back up after installing the latest version of the post-install root patches here. Let's fire up our OpenCore Legacy Patcher app so we can take a look at what it says now. And we'll click on post-install root patch here, and look at that. Now it will always tell you if all of the patches that you require for your system are installed and ready to go. And now you can see that the version of the root patches has been updated to 0.5.1, and it says that we installed it today, October 30th, 2022. So that gives you a full set here of how to update the application, the bootloader, and check the bootloader version. It will also show you how to check the root install patches and how to update them in the application. Okay, the next question I've been getting is do I recommend you upgrading your metal compatible GPU Mac to macOS Ventura via OpenCore Legacy Patcher? I've installed this on multiple test machines here, and it's worked absolutely fantastic. I can't tell you how good of a job Dina K, Makola, and all the OpenCore Legacy Patcher developers have done on this version of macOS Ventura. It's absolutely fantastic. With that said, we are still on version 13.0, right? What that means is it is the very first release of macOS Ventura, and there's still some bugs in there for even supported systems. So I don't even really recommend right away updating, even if you had the latest version of an M1 or an M2. I like to just have a little safer approach and like, well, let's just wait and see. But If you have multiple Macs and you want to test this out and have some fun with it, go for it. Have a great time because it works absolutely fantastic. For me, though, I've updated my main Mac to 12.6.1 because I actually really enjoy macOS Monterey. Will I update to macOS Ventura? Yes, I will, but probably just in a little bit. Maybe I'll wait until 13.1 before I update my main machine, but I actually can't wait because from what I've been hearing, it's been working very well for a lot of people, and all the people that have been updating their unsupported Macs to Ventura have been doing very well so far. There's a couple of small issues that they've seen that they have been reporting, but again, that's going to happen with any brand new operating system. What about macOS Big Sur and macOS Monterey here? Both are safe to install, and that's why I wait a couple days after the release was released for OpenCore Legacy Patcher, because I put them on my test devices and I test them out first to make sure that I don't have any issues before I recommend that you install on your device. Again, it's been very reliable and there has not been very many issues over the life of the patcher and all the updates, but it's always okay to just take a couple days and see how things go. And like I said, check the GitHub, and then you can wait for this video if you like to see them testing on my device to make sure that everything's okay before you update. And of course, I always recommend backing up your important data before you make the jump, just in case something goes wrong. You always have your files backed up. But again, all three operating systems, 13.0, Monterey 12.6.1, and Big Sur 11.7.1, all working with 0.5.1 OpenCore Legacy Patcher. Now, if you have any questions on this, please feel free to ask me in the comments. I know that these videos can be a little bit long and they might be a little bit confusing to you, but I want to give you the power, right? The power is that the more you learn about the patcher, the more you are informed on how the system works. So when I go over versions of the bootloader and all that stuff, is that required? No. But if you want to learn more and see how the patcher works, that's a really wonderful piece of knowledge that you can have. And if you have any other questions on that, like I said, feel free to let me know. I hope the updates have worked very well on your Mac. Let me know in the comments. How did your update go to Big Sur, Monterey, and Ventura? I'm really excited to hear how that went for you. But I want to talk specifically this time around my Patreon. If you're wondering what the heck goes on the Patreon, well, you have access to be able to ask me questions. And I realized today that I tried my best to get to as many comments as I can. But an example of the video that just came out, over 600 comments and questions in a little under 2 days. I can't tell you how that makes me feel. That is absolutely amazing, but it's also very hard to get to everyone, and I want to, because if you take the time to make a comment, that makes me feel wonderful. And you took the time to watch this video. I do see them, I just can't get to them all. And if you want to have a discussion, join the Patreon, because there's a lot of wonderful people already in there, and you have access to deep troubleshooting questions. You have access to me being able to give you research behind those answers. I give you a sneak peek on upcoming videos and information and questions that I have for you and ideas that I have for the future. So it's a nice little kind of core group of people that we get to talk to, and it's absolutely fantastic. And I thank all the Patreon members that are currently in there. Thank you very much, and we'll catch you in the next video. Thanks.